and I answered all their questions that they asked. I helped clear up some misconceptions that they had been told. And as you know, I know they're no longer investigating. So I think I helped them well.
And here we were all thinking that Carrie was the talker. Hello, 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 and welcome back, roommates, to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, and we are not law enforcement. We are just people who have opinions about all things going on in the Karen Reed trial, including the one, Jennifer McCabe, seemingly opening the door to talking about the FBI.
I welcomed them in my house, sat with them, and then I stopped, and then I met with them a few times after, and I answered all their questions that they asked. I helped clear up some misconceptions that they had been told, and as you know, I know they're no longer investigating. So I think I helped them well.
And help them well indeed. So now I want to jump a little bit backwards in time during her actual cross-examination towards the tail end, when they're talking about the events that occurred the morning of when Kerry Roberts, Jen McCabe, and Karen Reed pulled up and found John O'Keefe on the front yard of 34 Fairview.
Who looks most like she is taking charge, you or Kerry Roberts?
Jackson.
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one controlling the narrative, at least with law enforcement at that point?
Objection.
Sustained.
Does it appear in that video that you're the one engaging in conversation with law enforcement while Kerry Roberts and Ms. Reed are otherwise occupied?
I am speaking with law enforcement, yes.
So before he rolls into his next set of questions, again, you see, even though all of those objections were sustained, Jennifer McCabe was the one to handle all the conversation, the person who was creating the story that ultimately would fit together in the timeline. And we're going to get into that in a little bit more, because we've been hearing a lot about this timeline that we haven't even seen. I mean, I was expecting a whole PowerPoint presentation, Sir Ian Whiffen style, to pop up on the screen. I mean, it sounds very in-depth. I mean, we got Denise Galvin sitting in the audience, right, with her Crayola crayons and her Sharpie markers, ready to go, ready to present with her big, fat, thick whiteboard.
Can you see yourself in that video?
I can, yes.
Which person are you?
I'm in the far right.
Speaking to someone?
Yes.
Who's that you're speaking to?
I can't make it out, but it looks like a police officer, possibly.
And Ms. Roberts is directly in the middle of the screen, is that right?
I thought that was Miss Reed, but I could be wrong.
Let's go ahead and play it. And at 9:26, you'll stop, please. In that video clip, who among the three of you appear to be most engaged with law enforcement at that time?
Objection.
Can you tell? Can you answer that, Ms. Reed?
Well, that was a Freudian slip if I ever heard one. Beverly!
I mean, can you answer that, Ms. McCabe?
Yes, I can. I was speaking to police officers. Yes, I was trying to help them.
Okay. Can we go to runtime 10:49? This will be from 10:49 to 11:55, Mr. Wolk. And pause it. Who is it that's just gesticulating in the video?
That is me.
Can we go ahead and play it?
I mean, she looks like she's doing air traffic control over here. And, like, if you'll notice, too, like, Karen Reed, whenever she's in frame, she's pacing around like a mad woman. And the bizarre thing out of all of this is the way that all of these witnesses describe Karen Reed's behavior is to make you feel like she's the out of place one, like she's acting crazy and erratic. And that must mean she knows she hit him with her car. And that's why we're all cool, calm, and collected, because we had to be. We had to be calm because she was freaking out. Hence the Freudian slip by the one Beverly Canola Oil. Seems kind of ironic, right? You would think that Jennifer McCabe was the defendant in this case. How lovely would this have all been if they just wore some dang body cams and we could actually hear what the duck she was saying? But no, I mean, we're supposed to be lip readers, I guess, and you could hardly make out anything that's going on. So we kind of just have to take everybody's word for it, which doesn't really mean a whole lot here in the town of Canton.
Who among the three of you appeared to be most engaged with law enforcement in that clip?
I was.
I'm going to skip through this. He shows her, but again, just to lay the foundation of you're the one who keeps popping up on screen. You're the main character in the story, ironically, and yet you aren't the defendant. And you would think, again, the person who would be, or you're trying to say, has this heavy weight of consciousness of guilt, right? And she knows she hit him. She would be trying to explain herself to law enforcement. Again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to come to that conclusion, in my opinion.
When you got to the scene at 6:03 in the morning, you immediately recognized, did you not, that this was an emergency situation?
So this is a really, really interesting point that I don't feel like, or at least from what I can recall, last year during the first trial, is the panic and emergency state of mind you must have been in, even if you were trying to be the cool, calm, collected one, the one to get everything done, the shot caller and all of this. You would have realized how time was of the essence. And the most important thing in that moment was getting John help as quickly as possible. We get into her talking about there's a man passed out in the snow on the 911 call and why she called him the man.
High intensity emergency situation, correct?
I knew it was an emergency situation, yes.
As a matter of fact, a man's life was in grave danger. You knew that.
Yes, I did.
And this is someone that was a friend of yours, correct?
Yes, he was a dear friend.
Not just a friend, but a police officer who was laying, as far as you knew, dying in the snow. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that you needed to get immediate medical attention, emergency medical attention to him as quickly as you possibly could. Is that right?
Yes.
You knew that minutes counted, right?
Yes.
You knew that seconds counted, correct?
Correct.
This man was grasping, as far as you knew, grasping and clinging to life at that moment. Is that right?
Yes.
That's why you called 911, to get emergency personnel who are trained in CPR and life-saving measures to the scene, to the gentleman, to Mr. O'Keefe, as quickly as you possibly could, correct?
Yes.
You called 911 at about 6:03 and 35 seconds. Is that right? I don't expect you to know down to the second, but it was about a couple of minutes after 6.
Right after, yeah, we found him, yes.
And you're aware from the dash cam that Officer Seraph got there about 6:10, almost on the nose, right?
I didn't pay attention to the time.
You'll agree with me that there was about 6.5 minutes or so between the time you called 911 and the time Officer Seraph got there. Is that right?
If that's what the dash cam says, yes.
And again, according to Jennifer McCabe, which we know is a big fat frickin' lie, John never came inside the house, right? The last that she had seen the SUV, the word according to Sister Jennifer McCabe, was 12:45 a.m., which was debunked earlier today. So for all you know, John O'Keefe at this point was laying out there for hours since 12:45 a.m., right? And at this point, it's 6 hours later. And you're apparently Googling just moments later, right? Right? Did 6 hours do the job? Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm feeling anxious, and I'm really, really nervous about something, time slows the duck down. 6.5 minutes feels like an eternity. It's still not fast enough, considering the state that they found him in, right? He's clinging for life. So what would you do in that situation? Yeah, you call 911. Okay, they're doing chest compressions, right? They're trying to warm him up. Karen Reed's doing CPR. Gary Roberts doing some too. Karen Reed's trying to warm him up, yada, yada. They're shouting at each other, screaming. You're like, okay, I'm the one who has to take control of the situation because both of you are doing that thing, so let me get help as quickly as I can. I'm going to obviously call 911. But what else could I do, right? I'm on a public street. My brother-in-law is a first responder. He's a Boston police officer. And even if he wasn't, it's his front lawn where this is happening. Wouldn't you think to alert him of the situation? Now, we're going to hear her explanation for all of this in just a minute. But also take note that there's also another cop across the street, directly across the street, whose Ring camera footage magically just doesn't seem to have existed when this all occurred.
On that 911 call, you referred to John O'Keefe as a man passed out in the snow.
Yes.
You didn't say, this is my friend?
I needed to get, like you said, emergency there. So
Did
I
you
wasn't
say,
going to
"This is
give
my
a I wasn't going to give a description and say my friend is in the snow. I was going to give them the information that I thought was the most important at the time.
Did
And
you say his name?
I just said a man because that was the most important identifying.
You didn't say John?
Eventually in the 911, I do say his name.
You didn't initially say O'Keefe, correct?
No, none of that matters. It was a man in the snow, and I
you
wanted
didn't say,
help there.
And you didn't say he's a Boston police officer or an off-duty police officer?
Again, a man needed help.
Yes or no? Did you
No,
say that?
I didn't.
Do you think
For all they know, it could be some homeless guy who's wandering around drunk in the snow and he just passed out on your brother-in-law's front lawn. It could be some dumb college kid. For all they know, a man passed out in the snow could not be more vague.
think that might, yes or no, do you think that might have sped things up if they knew, if the 911 operator knew that this was a fallen officer, a fellow officer?
I think 911 comes to everyone equally. I don't think they would have.
Do you think that might have been something important to relay?
Let's not play dumb here. If you were like, Kevin Albert is passed out on his brother's front lawn and he's not responding, he's not waking up, you would mention Kevin Albert by name because he works for the Canton PD. If it was anybody else, and there was nothing nefarious, if it really happened the way that you all are alleging it to have happened, which we know is not factually true, you would have mentioned, my friend, he's a Boston cop. He's not responding. He's passed out in the snow. I don't know what's going on. He's got all these bruises on his face, scratches on his arm. I have no idea what the heck happened. The last I saw him, last I heard from him was hours ago, over 6 hours ago. He said he was going to meet me here. I never saw him come in through the front door. Maybe he came back. Maybe he passed out. He was too drunk. I don't know. We had a lot to drink that night. But a man passed out in the snow. There's this thing called distancing yourself. And Jennifer McCabe is really good at doing that.
You even asked by the 911 operator, does anybody know CPR? And your answer was no, correct?
I'd have to listen to it to remember my exact answers.
But it was basically in the negative. No, we're not professionals. We're just out here doing the best we can, correct?
I wouldn't say that, no.
You didn't believe Karen Reed knew CPR?
I didn't know. I don't think I answered that question. I don't think it was asked.
You didn't know if Carrie Roberts knew CPR, correct?
I didn't know if they knew CPR, correct?
And none of you were paramedics?
No,
None of you were first responders?
no,
None of you were trained in emergency life-saving techniques in any way, correct?
correct.
I have a question, Ms. McCabe.
We all
On
do.
all of Fairview, the entire road between Chapman and Cedar Crest, can you think of any person on that road who might have had life-saving techniques trained into them? First responder, someone who knew how to deal with someone in distress, someone with high skill level training. Do you think of anyone on Fairview who had that kind of training?
Can I now or did I then? Which are you asking?
Did you then?
No, then my focus was on John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me narrow the focus. How about on the property? How about at 34 Fairview? Could you think of anyone that was a first responder who would have life-saving training, life-saving technique training under his belt?
Yes, my brother-in-law, Brian Albert.
Ding, 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 we have a winner. And like, even if Brian Albert worked at Stop and Shop, right, bagging everybody's groceries, Brian Albert's a big dude. Wouldn't you think to be like, well, it's freezing outside and it's snowing. It's probably not a good idea to keep John O'Keefe outside like this when he's passed out. We probably should try and warm him up, right? We're all small. Not probably physically capable, especially when somebody's literally dead weight, to lift and carry a 200-pound man. But Brian Albert, who is pretty large, could probably help. Bring him inside, maybe? Warm him up? Remove him from the snow? I know you're not supposed to like tamper with like a crime scene, but at that point, right? You don't really know what happened, allegedly. You don't know that a crime even took place because a man just passed out in the snow. What about the next door neighbors? Now, I know you placed some phone calls to your sister, Coco, who likes to use the umbrellas for It's Raining Men when she's dancing in her galoshes. But what about anybody banging on the next door neighbor's house? Running across the street. You can't tell me you haven't been there enough times to not really know some of the neighbors, or at least maybe be familiar with them enough. Now, I can suspend my belief a little bit in that regard. But again, the point is, you knock on doors, you scream, you yell until somebody can help. You get the whole dang neighborhood in there trying to pick this guy up, move him into a warm area. Somebody's bound to know CPR. But again, the most obvious choice, yes, would be your brother-in-law.
And you didn't go in the house, did you?
No, I did not.
When you arrived at the scene, you did.
Also, didn't she at one point say the door was unlocked? I don't know if I'm making that up, but I feel like at some point she said the door was unlocked, and that's how she eventually got in. I don't know, I could be totally making that up, but I feel like I recall that from some testimony at some point.
You didn't go in? Not until much later, correct?
Our focus was John.
You knew that Brian Albert was inside the house. You'd just been with him hours earlier, correct?
Yes,
You knew that his window was 30 feet away. You were staring at it. You could look at it if you wanted to, correct?
it's off to an angle.
And you didn't go in the house then either.
I did not know.
You knew that John O'Keefe was clinging to life during those precious minutes and seconds. Is that right?
I did, yes.
And you also knew that Brian Albert, your brother-in-law, was a first responder trained to deal with people in that kind of distress, correct?
In that moment, my only thoughts were John and everything we could do for John.
And you knew that there were warm blankets inside the house. Is that right?
I did, yes. There were warm blankets in the house.
And you
Those
still
weren't-
never went in, did you?
No, I went and attended to John because once I finished calling 911, I went over to John and Kerry Roberts asked me to take over compressions. So I felt like that was more important and 911 was on the way. I never thought about going in the house. I just thought, how can I help John?
You never thought about going in the house, but you did pull out your cell phone and make 2 phone calls.
Whoops-a-daisy.
After I called 911, I tried calling my sister, yes.
While John was out in the cold, clinging to life, you weren't doing chest compressions at 6:07 and 6:08, were you?
I was walking over when I was calling.
You were calling your sister on the phone, weren't you, Mr. McCabe?
I was calling them to see if they would come out, but I was going right over to work on him.
And you could have walked.
It's like walking and chewing gum at the same time. I can't even fathom calling and trying to open the door, knock on the frickin' door, scream up to the window. There's a garage. What if the garage is unlocked? See if you can get in through the house from there. Is there a back door that you can open, maybe? Is there a spare key? Do you have a spare key? All of the things. And I get in a panicked moment, you might not think of all the things. But surely you would at least think to scream. And the only person or persons who were screaming and yelling back and forth at each other was Karen Reed and Kerry Roberts. The jurors have already done the viewing without knowing the whole story. Now they're starting to hear the actual account from somebody else who was there. This main character, Jennifer McCabe, who's been this mysterious shadow figure in the background, like the boogeyman. Now they've met her. They've heard Kerry Roberts' testimony. They're starting to piece things together. Well, why didn't you? Well, where was the window? You're describing where the window was, but would it have been possible for me to yell? For somebody to have heard? How many entrances were there to the house? Was there any doors that were unlocked? There's a lot more questions that definitely need to be answered.
25 feet to the front door, walked in the house, and screamed for Brian Albert to come out and help you in those precious seconds and minutes, couldn't you?
That would have taken me away from helping John, getting Kerry blankets, giving him compressions.
And making those 2 very important phone calls at 6:07 and 6:08 that you say were not answered, correct?
They were not important phone calls. I tried to call my sister, and then I focused on John.
They were not important phone calls, but they were important enough for you to make while John is clinging to life right there in front of you, right?
As I was walking over, I called to see if she would answer.
And she didn't answer. Let's talk about that. She didn't answer according to you.
So if we're going to talk about it, we're beyond the luncheon break?
Your Honor, I have 2 more questions,
Okay,
and I'll wrap it.
okay.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
She didn't answer the phone, did she?
No, she didn't.
So you have a situation where a man is laying dead or dying in the front yard of your sister's house. You see nothing in terms of life inside the house. Lights aren't coming on. They're not getting up. They're certainly not coming outside, right?
They were sound asleep
They weren't coming outside, were they?
because they were asleep.
You didn't know if they were asleep. All you knew was there was a severely injured man on the front lawn of their house, and your sister didn't answer the phone, not once, but twice, correct?
Correct, she didn't answer the phone.
Did you think your sister might have been in peril? Did you think to go inside the house and check that they're okay?
I had no reason to think that they weren't okay.
Well, why not? There's a man passed out in the snow. Like, your dear friend that you love so much, who's this 200-pound man, is beaten half to death. He's just lying there. He's not responsive. The lights are out. And yes, as you say, she's not picking up her phone, even though we know you spoke to her an hour before that, 5:07 a.m. You spoke to Coco for 38 seconds. Now you don't hear from her at all. The lights are out. It's dark in the house. Nobody's waking up. Nothing. I just assumed she's sound asleep. If I found somebody, regardless of whether they were my friend or not, beaten to a pulp on my sister's front lawn. And I knew if it was my friend or whoever it was, if I knew that person on the front lawn was being tended to, I would, as the third party person in the situation, instead of being the rah-rah sis boom bah cheerleader in the background who's doing nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, chest compressions. I'm running in the house. I'm breaking down the door. I'm waking neighbors up. I'm getting the whole neighborhood up because I'm like, oh my God, is my sister alive? Like, what happened to her? Was there an attack? Was there a burglary? I don't know. And I've always thought that. And I'm so glad he brought that up because, again, it's just more reasonable doubt. And making sure the jury understands that their behavior was bizarro. Not Karen Reed's, not Carrie Roberts, because she had no idea what was going on. She's just the useful idiot in all of this. And how's that working out for you, Care Bear? You finally got your seat at the cool kids table. You're part of the plastics.
You had no reason to believe they weren't okay. A man was dead or dying on their lawn, and your sister's not answering the phone. And nobody is coming out to the chaos of Karen Reed screaming on the front lawn. You didn't think there was some reason to believe they could have been in peril?
I didn't, because your client was screaming she hit him. She had a cracked taillight. She was crying she hit him. I didn't, but my focus... Can I finish, please?
You had solved the crime right then and there. You solved the whole case.
No, I didn't. I knew John never came in the house, so I had no concern for anyone's safety inside the house.
The reason you didn't go inside the house is because you knew better. You knew better. You knew she wasn't in peril. You knew that Brian Albert wasn't in peril. You weren't worried at all about them, were you?
I was not worried at all because something happened on the front lawn that had nothing to do with anything inside that house.
You weren't worried about them at all because you knew what really happened, didn't you, Mr. McCabe?
At that moment, I didn't know that he was hit by a vehicle and there was taillight found next to him.
So this is when they get into the Google search of House Long to Die in Gold. She definitely put the cart before the horse in this one.
Are you denying that you made a Google search at 2:27 a.m.?
If you could show me this Google search, I'd appreciate it.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, there is practically a frickin' billboard with this phrase on it. House Long to Die in Cold. How many people have merch out there that you've probably Googled yourself and been like, oh my God, they're talking about me again. They have the House Long to Die in Cold sweatshirt. Ah. You know what he's talking about. You don't play dumb well.
You indicated you wanted to see a record, Ms. McCabe. Did you see a record that indicated a Google search? Not what the contents of the Google search is, but there was a Google search.
I just saw a Celebrate record, yes.
And did you see the time of the Google search?
On that record, yes.
It's at 2:27 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Ultimately, you will agree that there was a Google search done, and now I'm going to ask about the content of House Long to Die in Cold, correct?
That was done in the morning at the request of Miss Reed.
Ms. McCabe, I didn't ask you that. I asked you a yes or no question. Did you understand my question?
Could you repeat it, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Did that record indicate that there was a search at some point done, at some point, for House Long to Die in Cold?
I object to recovering the record. I'll
So was there a search on that at some point?
On that paper, was there a search that said that? Is that the question?
Let's start with that.
Yes. Yeah, there was.
Okay.
I mean, this is worse than like having a frickin' root canal, seriously.
Now let me ask you a different question. You Google searched the phrase House Long to Die in Cold. Yes or no?
Yes.
On January 29th, correct?
Yes.
So I have to pretend
So
I'm
you agree
thinking
that you were
about it.
on Google, correct?
Yes.
You agree that there was a search done at 2:27 a.m., correct?
I don't recall doing a search at 2:27. The paper says it. I don't.
Okay. And you also agree that at some point that morning, you plugged into that phone, Haas Long to Die in Cold. Is that right?
Yes, after we found John O'Keefe.
Now, you claim that that was at 6:23 and at 6:24 in the morning, two iterations of How Long to Die in the Cold. Haas Long to Die in Cold, How Long T.I. Die in CIKD, correct?
I'm not claiming it. It's the truth is what happened.
I mean, girl, there's a lot of things I don't claim, right? There's a lot of things I don't claim, like one, Jojo Siwa. If I Googled How Long to Die in Cold, and I'm looking at a Celebrate report in front of me that says I did it at this time, guess what? My hand is in the cookie jar. I have been caught. It looks so much worse when you just deny it, when you deny digital forensics, when you say, well, I don't know, I don't remember making that. This is the problem with people these days. Anybody can just say anything. I could say, oh, I paid my taxes. If I didn't pay my taxes, I paid my taxes. Yeah, I did. I mean, the money may not have been paid to the IRS, but that doesn't mean I didn't make a payment. I didn't pay my taxes. I did it. Anybody can say anything. Just own it. It looks way worse.
You're testifying to that.
Yes, I am.
You also testified that at the time you Google searched those phrases, it was Karen Reed screaming and yelling at you, shaking you to Google hypothermia, correct?
She was pulling on my sleeve,
Is that
yes.
yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. You have discussed this Google search and the issue of the hypothermia with Carrie Roberts, correct?
I told her in the days following.
You discussed it?
Yes.
The timeline told them. So if you watch my video from the other day when we were covering Carrie Roberts' testimony, she testified, last week? Earlier this week? I can't remember. What is timeline? Maybe I should go check my timeline. She admitted to lying to the grand jury about hearing Jennifer McCabe being asked by Karen Reed to Google hypothermia. That is what Carrie Roberts originally testified in front of a grand jury. Technically, she didn't hear it because her BFF Jen, told her that she did. Well, you were there, right? You were standing there. You must have heard me. You must have heard Karen Reed ask me this. Let's put in the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
You discussed it in the days following January 29th, correct?
Yes.
You discussed it before her testimony at the grand jury, correct?
We discussed it after. We don't talk about what we're going to say before testifying or anything like that.
So in the 3 months between this incident and the testimony by both you and Ms. Roberts, you two did not discuss this hypothermia issue?
It wasn't an issue. It was just something she said, but we don't discuss it every day. There's no need to.
I didn't ask you to discuss it every day. I asked you if you ever discussed it.
Originally, yes, we did discuss it in the first days following all of
And
this.
that would have been before either one of you testified at the grand jury, correct?
Yes.
And we know that you were with her during her, just before her testimony at the grand jury. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're certainly aware that at the grand jury, that in prior testimony, Carrie Roberts corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded to Google hypothermia.
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Are you aware that Carrie Roberts, well, let me ask it a different way. Have you and Carrie Roberts ever discussed the fact that she corroborated your statement that Karen Reed demanded that you Google hypothermia?
No.
She never told you that.
No.
Did you ever ask her that?
No.
Did you discuss your statement that Karen Reed was the one that demanded that search?
Karen Reed did ask me to do the search, yes.
Okay, that's not what I asked you. Did you and Carrie Roberts discuss that?
Yes, we've talked about that.
Are you aware that last week Carrie Roberts denied hearing that statement.
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you been told, have you been updated that last week Carrie Roberts denied ever having heard that statement?
Objection.
Sustained.
That is such a freeze frame on Beverly. Oh, Beverly. Such face you give. It does feel like she almost convinced herself that her story is the truth.
You've reviewed the video from the dash cam out at the scene, correct?
I've seen it, yes.
You're aware that there is no video showing my client demanding a Google search anywhere in this case, correct?
I'm not sure what what cameras were where.
You're aware that there's no audio of my client demanding a Google search, correct? You're unaware of any witness who can corroborate your statement that my client demanded a Google search. Any witness at all.
It was just the two of us. She had sent Carrie off.
So of course, Carrie
But I thought Carrie was standing out by the door. I thought the door was open and she was standing there by the door of the cop car. And that's when she allegedly technically did not hear Karen Reed ask you to Google hypothermia. I see. So Carrie wasn't over there. Aha!
Carrie Roberts is not such corroborating witness. Is that right? At least you understand that.
Can you rephrase the question, please?
Carrie Roberts is not a corroborating witness for you. You understand that? You just said that.
Yes, Carrie, I don't believe heard it. She
So
was
it's-
sent off.
So it's your word and your word only, Ms. McCabe, that my client demanded a Google search. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Ms. McCabe, you were with Carrie Roberts just before.
It's your word and your word only. Yep, So once again, we're back to one where you were admitting you are the only one who heard this. You're also the only one who technically heard Karen Reed say, I hit him. Interesting.
Her grand jury testimony. Is that right?
Yes.
You had been with her to create a timeline of a version of events that occurred, correct?
I wouldn't say a version of events. We each put down what we remembered.
She saw what you put down, you saw what she put down,
Yes.
and you compared and contrasted those with each other to create that timeline, correct?
No, we didn't compare and contrast. I said she called me, she said this, then Carrie, and someone was writing it down for us.
That would be your sister. Who?
It was my sister, yes.
Which sister?
My sister Denise.
Now, I wonder if she knew, like, Carrie had dropped her name into the chat. I'm sure she did. I'm sure she's fully aware of all of what's happening right now because they're biffles, right? And I'm fairly certain she was one of the first people that Carrie Roberts called after her testimony. Because they did talk the night before Jen McCabe allegedly testified. So I don't know if this is the first time we're hearing about Denise. I know for me it was when Carrie Roberts let that one out of her gob, but she almost feels like to me a little taken aback.
What's your last name?
Galvin.
She here?
She is here, yes.
Where is she?
She's sitting over there.
Can you point to her and describe what she's wearing?
Sure, she's over there in the back with the striped shirt on.
Between the gentleman in the purple and the gentleman in the black?
Yes.
So she
Also, question, did anybody notice her sitting in the peanut gallery any other day aside from when Jennifer McCabe took the stand? I would like to know.
witnessed this timeline being prepared, correct?
She wrote the timeline, yes.
And then you've spoken to Ms. Roberts several times about this case.
Yes.
and about your perceptions of this case, correct?
We talk about what happened and the aftermath of this case. We don't talk about the specific details as much as we talk about the aftermath of everything.
Ms. McCabe, the fact is you instructed Carrie Roberts to say that she heard that Google hypothermia statement from my client before she testified at the grand jury, didn't you?
No, absolutely not. I never instructed her to do anything.
You wanted some witness to back up your story about this Google search, correct?
No, absolutely not. I
Ms.
don't need.
McCabe,
It was said. Karen said it. It's that simple.
so you're the only person saying that, though.
Yes, and I stand by that 110%.
And the reason that you wanted another witness to back up
Because I say you should believe me, right?
that statement is because you knew that that Google search for Hosselong to die in cold points a very uncomfortable finger right toward you, correct?
I never did that search at 227. I never needed to instruct somebody. No, I'm sorry.
There's that apology again. Has someone told you that you need to apologize when there's an uncomfortable question that you don't want to answer?
No,
Have you discussed this with anybody?
no, and that's not an uncomfortable question. I'm fine to answer it.
How many times did you say, I apologize yesterday in cross-examination?
I didn't count.
I
Probably more than
apologize.
15, right?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to answer the questions and be truthful as I can.
And you're aware that the Celebrite extraction that was done on your phone determined that of the three searches, 2:27 a.m., 6:23 a.m., 6:24 a.m., only one of them was recorded as deleted, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you ever been confronted with having deleted a Google search off your phone? You ever
Yeah.
been asked that?
Yes, by you.
Do you deny that you deleted a Google search off your phone?
I never deleted a Google search off my phone.
So you
I
deny
never did that. I deny it, yes.
That you ever deleted a Google search?
Yes. I never made the search.
Oh.
I'd like to move back to
I never made it. I never deleted it. So which is it? You made it and you didn't delete it, or you didn't search it at all? It's like, what are we doing here? Jesus loves me. With that being said, if you enjoyed today's content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, man. Make sure you hit that, that notification bell. It's been a day. That notification bell so you do not miss the next video from me, and make sure you hit that like button because that tells the YouTube algorithm that this is newsworthy news, and it is, because we all know how the mainstream media likes to report on this case, and 9 times out of 10, the things that make the headlines are the things that are either taken way out of context or not actually that important. So we're just trying to bring the truth to the table here and talk about it in a way where we can express our opinions. So if you are down with that, then I am down with you. And I want to hear what your thoughts are on Jennifer Jesus Loves Me McCabe in the comment section below if you want to share them with me. But until then, you fine folk, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.